everybody. So I'm always talking about you shouldn't get your minerals from your water, you should get them from your plants. I've done a bunch of videos on that, and that is very true. So what I've done is I've tried to learn how to get the minerals in the soil. So I've really studied soil microbiology and vermicompost. And so today I want to do a video on worms. Worms. They are our friend for the garden because they eat pretty much anything that we put into their bin, and they turn all that waste into good nutrients, and they put it into the soil called worm castings. So what I've done is I've created a nice little farm for the worms and where I can capture the castings, and I would like to show you guys what I've done. So here we go. Here's the worm bin. I built this in May of 2022. And so as you can see, this is a pretty good sized container. It's got the wheels on it. I did this because of the way that it's sloped. I have it inside my basement because it's winter outside and these worms will freeze. And so I can continue feeding them the scraps. We're going to go in there in just a minute. But I've got this little tray on the back end to catch the leachate that actually drips out of it to keep everything fresh and aerobic. So let's look inside. I got lots of some castings. I don't know if you can see that right up on there. And some worms along the edge. Let's put this down. So as soon as you pull this off, the worms typically head for darker underground. So you can see in here I got a couple carrots and some leaves that they've pretty much eaten. Let me get you a better shot at that. So this is just loaded with worms. I don't want to disturb them right now because I've got some special diet in there, but let's go just a little bit in there. They're moving as fast as we can. So what we're going to learn today is I built this almost a year ago, well 8 or 9 months ago. The castings are ready to harvest, so I'm going to build a new one and I'm going to show you what I do. Okay guys, so I went to Lowe's, with just a hardware store, and I got two 27-gallon totes, just standard totes. I've got a regular 3/8 bulkhead fitting. We'll show you what that's for. Piece of 3/8 tube, a 3/8 John Gast Street L, and a 3/8 John Gast shutoff. So, first thing I did, took the bin, drilled a hole, 1/2-inch hole. This bulkhead fitting is designed to go inside and create a connection so that I can put a spout on this. The spout is going to catch the leachate that drains from the other container into this container. It's going to catch it. I want to do this, put this down, push this in like that, and then like that. Then I can simply turn this up. This is on an O-ring seal in there so that it won't leak out. So then when I'm ready, I'll have this up on the counter or the bench, and I can just simply go like this, open it up, get a cup of worm tea, go feed my plants. Okay, so the second thing that I've done is I've taken this container, another 27-gallon container, because it slides right in perfectly into this one. But what I've done on all the lowest points of the bottom of this container, I've drilled holes. Little holes, maybe like 3/16 or 1/8 inch. It may be a little bigger than 1/8 inch. That's 3/16. All right, so then I stack them together like that. Then we're going to fill this up with the worm bedding. We're going to go get that ready. Okay guys, so we're going to show you why I have the worm bin in the house. It's snowing out there. Holy moly. You know, there's no smell from the worm bin as long as it's done right. So I don't mind it being in the house. That little bit of leachate, I have cats and dogs and they stay away from it. So I don't have to worry about and the pests. I only have a couple of holes in the top for breathing, for just the whole thing so it stays aerobic. So this is a 10-pound coconut core block. I try to research the companies the best that I can, get good ones, but there's so many out there and you just don't know who's telling you the truth on what they do. So this is going to take probably about 5 gallons of water, maybe 10 gallons, but I'm going to start with 5. Okay. That's first 2.5. All right, second 2.5 gallons of water. It had almost absorbed that first 2.5 gallons that I put in there, just into the bottom of the block. It had almost absorbed it. So I'm going to turn it over. Oh yeah, big old bunch of that slaked off. Huh? You can see that in there. So you can see why I decided to move this outside. It's pretty messy. But you could do this in a 5-gallon bucket. You could get littler bricks. I started with a 10-pound brick because I knew about how much I'd need. But they make these in 3-pound bricks and 5-pound bricks and whatnot. So, and I could let this soak a little bit longer. And I probably will do that. Just so I'm not out here in the cold. Scrape this. So the idea is to get this all broken down and then be able to pick up a handful of this and squeeze it. See that? That's about the right amount, just so that if you squeeze it, the water comes out, but yet nothing drips. So that's the right amount, but we got a whole lot of block left to go, so, oh yay. So I'm going to go get another 2.5 gallons for a total of 7.5 so far. Okay, now we're back. This is for a total of 7.5 gallons. That water made pretty quick work of that block, as it's supposed to. So I think I'm going to let this sit for a little while until it's all like that. And I always start out with a little less water than more because it's easier to put water in than to take water out. First time I did it, I had to take a little water out, and so I'm a little more careful this time. So it looks like I'm still going to be able to put another 2.5 gallons of water in there with no problem. What I might do, it looks like this is going to be a lot of coconut core for that one worm bin. I'm going to take this out because I've got another worm bin that's going to need some bedding here pretty soon. I would say that was maybe 1/3 of that 10-pound. Look at how much coconut core this is made. It's made almost a wheelbarrow, 3/4 full. There's a couple more blocks. I think I'm going to put this in here. This is a lot of worm bedding. This is going to be oodles and oodles. However, I like to do things a little bit different than mainstream, and I found that it works pretty good if I do a really nice thick bedding for them. Core. So I'm going to let that soak for just a few more minutes and then we'll be back. I don't know if it's light enough. Is it light enough? Okay. All right, so this is about 2/3 of that block. It ended up being All right, so all right. Okay, guys, so now I've got the coconut core in the bedding. It's about that thick, so it's about 6 to 8 inches. What I'm going to do is these are worm castings that I have harvested earlier. And so what I'm going to do is I've put a avocado in here to draw any of the worms that were in the casting up to the avocado so that I could make the transplant. But the other important thing in here is that I've done is I mixed zeolite, clinoptilolite with coconut char carbon in my worm bedding for the simple reason the coconut char basically is so porous that it houses, it's like an apartment complexes for the enzymes and for the biodiversity that's in my worm bins. So what I'm going to do to break the new worm bedding in is I'm going to take about 25% of the old castings, I'm going to mix it with the new worm bedding, so that basically I'm moving a whole bunch of the places that they live, which is in the zeolite and the carbon, mixed into the new bedding so that they'll feel right at home. All right, so let's get this one without disturbing as deep as I can, because there's a couple worms right around in there and I want to save them all. But look at this, the quality of this soil. So I'm going to just gently put that in there and then let them find their own equilibrium however they want to. And then I'm going to search for any more, and that's how I'm going to try to get my 25% of this in there. I've been watching this bin for about a month or two, so I'm pretty sure I know about where all the worms are. There's actually one right here that's trying to get away. Let's get you there, little buddy. Okay, let's put him in there with his friends. And yeah, so I think we're pretty good. I'm just going to go ahead and take I don't know if you can see it's pretty, I mean, that's just black. It smells like spring. Gives me spring fever. I think that's probably enough to transplant. Basically, I'm transplanting all the biologicals that live in here. They're going to make homes in here. Okay, so I'm not going to disturb this area right here for a few days because that's where the worms are, and I just want them to deal with the shock of going into a new place as easy as possible. But the rest of it, I'm going to mix in. I might actually mix a little bit more of this in. And the worms, they live in the top 3 inches of the bedding, but I like to mix it all the way down because I want those microbes all through the whole bedding, because what happens is when I put the food in the top of the bedding, it's going to leach and sink and rot, and it's going to go lower down into the rest of the bedding. The worms will eventually eat it. That's how you end up with something this full of castings. There's probably 150 pounds of castings in there ready for springtime. I'm going to be planting some trees. Okay, I think this is ready. The one last and final thing that I forgot to do is I needed to drill holes in my lid so that the worms in there can get a little bit of air. They don't like the light, so I'll just do like 1/8-inch holes, but they need it to breathe. Otherwise, there's other bugs in there that are composters that will thrive more if there's not air. If it goes into an anaerobic state, then the wrong kind of bugs start to grow in there. So we're going to keep it as aerobic as possible, and we can do that by just simply drilling a whole bunch of holes in this lid. I haven't done that. I will do that, and we'll take a picture of that. But for all intents and purposes, we are done.